everybody? Welcome to the show. My name is T, and we are talking scary movies. I appreciate you tuning in. Don't forget, every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, I'm going to have some horror news, an opinion piece, or like in tonight's show, a new interview for you to check out. But throughout the week, I am dropping countless reviews for y'all to go and catch in the world of horror, whether it's movies, TV shows, games, books, whatever. Don't want you to miss any of that. Best way to stay on top of everything I'm releasing on my channel is to get subscribed to my link tree. And you can do that by going to linktr.ee/T scary movie. If you get subscribed to my link tree, that's going to give you access to the YouTube page for the video versions of the show, to your favorite podcasting platforms, the audio only versions of the show, to my Letterboxd page for my written reviews and movie rankings throughout the year, to my TikTok page for my short horror content, including movie news and movie premieres, to my Twitch page where you can catch all of my horror gaming, including The Thing for PlayStation 2 and Rewind or Die, and to my Fangoria shop page where you can enjoy my 20% off discount off anything in the Fangoria shop, including a yearly subscription to the physical magazine. Don't want to miss out on any of that, folks. Hit that subscribe button, especially if you're watching on YouTube, as more subscribers I get, the more content I can drop for all of you. So what do I have in store for y'all here tonight? Like I said, I got an interview here for y'all. We got Alien Romulus coming out this week, and so I was finally able to get one of my favorite podcasters out there. Kendell B of the TerrorNova podcast is joining me tonight. We're going to talk a little bit here about the Alien franchise and about some of the memories that we both have of this series growing up. You do not want to miss this, folks. Stay tuned for that. And for your chance to win a copy of the little golden book of A is for Alien, all you gotta do is tell me in the comment section what your favorite Alien movie is. Are you a big fan of the original? Do you err more towards James Cameron Aliens? Or are you a new truther and you like Prometheus or Alien Covenant? Maybe you like 3, maybe you like Resurrection, maybe you like one of the AVP movies. There are so many out there for you to choose from. Tell me in the comment section what your favorite Alien movie is. You'll get entered for a chance to win a copy of A is for Alien. Well, without further ado, y'all, let's jump right on into it. Here's my interview with Kendell B of the TerrorNova podcast. Enjoy. All right, folks, join me today on a brand new edition of T and Friends Watch a Scary Movie. Is one of the hosts of the wonderful TerrorNova podcast out there. Folks, please help me welcome Mr. Kendell B. Kendell, how are you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. How's everything? How's it going?
Man, I can't complain. It is overcast out today, and after all this heat that we've been getting all over these last few days, man. Oh my God. Oh, too hot. Way too hot now.
Yeah, I'm in New York, so I feel like we're getting the blunt of it.
Yeah, and you were just at a convention this past weekend too, now, weren't you?
Yeah, I was at BlurCon. It was nice, man. It was my first time ever going. It was dope. It was super dope. I enjoyed it a lot. The vibes was nice.
That's what I'm talking about. I bring it up because obviously it's so hot out, so doing a convention, always the hottest thing in the world now there for sure. What did you love about it? Like you said, first time, what stood out to you about it, man?
Oh, man, like, there wasn't no issues. Like, that's what stood out to me. There wasn't no problems, there wasn't security throwing nobody out for acting crazy, or everybody was dressed up however they wanted, and some people was like fully suited and booted. Some people was paper thin, you got the anime characters that's barely wearing nothing. And there was some lady there with that, but obviously, the nice part was nobody bothering them. Like, it was nobody putting in complaints, talking about so and so trying to grab me or nothing. Everybody was just chill. It was a nice vibe all over. My lady enjoyed it too. It was good. It was nice. Definitely doing that again.
I love that because, man, like, you hear so many horror stories at like every convention these days. There's always problems. So that's what I'm talking about right there, man. Yeah,
I'm new to that world, so it was nice to I've only heard things in passing that people experience, so it was nice to see none of that happen.
Well, I'm definitely happy for a first con experience like that. That's awesome. That's exactly what we want out of that shit now. Hell yeah. All right, so I'm curious because you got to tell some of my listeners here a little bit. Tell us a little about TerrorNova, because I've been checking out your show for a little bit at this point here now. It's a wonderful listen, y'all. You definitely got to check it out wherever podcasts are available. But tell our listeners here a little bit about the TerrorNova podcast, if you could.
Oh, yeah, sure. So it's me and one of my good friends, Jackie. She's awesome. I always call her like the horror historian because she knows way more about the history of horror than I do. Like, I kind of know the things I've seen growing up. Luckily, I grew up in a household where horror was a big thing. Like my dad put on horror all the time, but a lot of the times it was like, you know, black horror. Like he played everything, but like the stuff we watched the most was like The People Under the Stairs, Tales from the Hood, things of that ilk. So I saw Freddy and Jason and all that other stuff too, but my dad also made sure we watched People Under the Stairs. So it's kind of fun to me that like black people I know who aren't into horror, they're just like, it's too white. And I was like, not really. Like, it's kind of like, it depends on what you watch. Like I watched Candyman as a kid. That was a very black film to me. I love Tony Todd. So so Jackie and I just kind of was just like, you know, during the pandemic, kind of bored like everyone else if you weren't, you know, dealing with something crazy. And I was just like, you know what, I would like to do a podcast for fun, like one that it's no pressure. I just get to vent, probably work on my talking skills a little bit, and just get better and just BS, work on my thoughts. And that's kind of where it arrived. So like, you know, we kind of like, we really hit on the social commentary aspect of a lot of these movies. So we love them as a fans, of course, but then, you know, when you know, people that black or non-white aren't included in these movies, it's always funny to say like, what is our POV for those types of movies when we aren't included, right? Like, you know, we had a brother in like one of the Freddy movies, and it's like, that's dope. But then if there's a movie where there isn't one, it's like, what would our POV be in that movie? So sometimes we love to joke about that. We'd be like, man, I'd have did this, so I think that's just some crazy shit a white person would have do. And we say that, and it's funny.
It's
it's cool. Like these movies exist for a reason, right? You see the white lady trip over a couch in Halloween, like that's these stereotypes exist because these movies are what they are. So we joke about all of that. That we talk about the social commentary aspect of it, whether it's race, just the POV of like different characters. We bring on guests, hoping to bring you on at some point. We love to bring on guests, people from all different types of background who seem way smarter than us because they're people with degrees in horror, who teach horror. We've had someone on who's like a specialist in indigenous horror. We had a lot of cool people on, so it's been a learning experience for us both. We get to talk to some interesting people I probably wouldn't have met otherwise if we didn't start the podcast. So it's like,
that's awesome, man. And I'm so curious because the one thing that I love about like the various podcasts and shows that are out there that cover, you know, everything in this kind of world is that you get a new entry point to give to somebody for horror that's out there. And I love that. You know, the one thing I've taken from you guys' show is that, man, there's no gatekeeping. And I love that because so many podcasts are pretentious out there these days. And you guys are very good about not gatekeeping the fandom at all. And that folks can kind of get in wherever they need to, you know?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, man. I never thought much about that until you just said it. Because in a lot of ways, the horror community online anyway, Jackie and I, well, I'm going to speak most of myself. Me in particular, I didn't know there was a huge online horror community. Obviously, there's a community for everything online. But like where you find it, right? Like I found it on Instagram for the most part at first. So I was like, okay, cool. Not only is it people who look like me, but there's also a lot of people who have different point of views. So I end up running into things like Girls That's Scary or Blurry Massacre and people like that, or me and Zero Gravity, or me and a bunch of other different types of people. And I'm like, oh, these people all like have been in this space longer than me, have interest in POVs. So I never even thought about like the gatekeeping aspect of it. I see that sometimes on Twitter when people talk about the things that they like in horror and things they don't like. And it's like, bro, that just ain't for you. Like some things ain't for me. Like I enjoy everything, but some things ain't for me. I could watch a movie, walk away from it, and we go like, all right, that was okay. And then you can walk away from it and be like, that was the best thing ever, and that's totally fine. So that's what me and Jackie always, we didn't really think much about that when we were in it, but I guess that's really that's just how we are. We want people to enjoy the genre. So, you know, we always say the podcast is for people who like horror and with people who are too scared to watch it. Because there's something there, even for the people who are too scared to watch. My lady doesn't watch horror, but she does enjoy hearing me talk about like the themes of horror sometimes and like how they connect to the real world. You know, you have movies like Alien we're going to talk about. Like you have things where like these things connect to real world themes, or the director intended for specific type of themes. That's easy to miss if you're not looking for it, and I don't judge if you don't see them. But when you look at these movies and you research them and read about it, you're like, oh, the director intended for that. They intended for, oh, that's interesting. I didn't think of it that way. I should probably watch it again just to see if I spot what they're going for. So there's a lot to take away from the genre.
Yeah. And I'm curious, I mean, because like you guys are always staying on top of stuff there. What's been your favorite for you to go to this year? Like, what have you reviewed this year thus far that really has stood out to you on the top of your list? Because we just got done doing our best of 2024 so far about a month or so ago. And I'm always curious, we're at the halfway point of the year. What's at the top for you right now?
In terms of stuff that I've watched, or in terms of stuff that I've reviewed?
Anything that you've watched, whether it's come out this year or it's something that like you just discovered this year, what's been some of your top watches this year?
Oh, cool. I finally got around to seeing Werewolves Within.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. That was so much fun. That movie was so great. The cast was great. That was a blast. I finally I watched it like 3 weeks ago for the first time, and I was like, after years, I've been dying to see this. That movie was like super, super fun. So I saw that recently. That was a blast. Okay. I saw Abigail. That was awesome. I really liked Abigail. Abigail was fun. I love quirky and weird, and that was like perfect level of quirky and weird. I just wish I didn't know she was a vampire going in. I didn't see the trailer, but so many people kept talking about it that I just eventually realized, oh, it's the girl's a vampire. Cool. But the movie was still cool. Yeah, the movie was still cool. I enjoyed that a lot. Megan was a lot of fun. That was hilarious. Megan was so good. I hope they do a crossover with Chucky or something. That'd be great.
That'd be dope. That'd be dope. I'll be about that. That'd be super
fun. But yeah, those are the main ones that came to mind on the top of my head. Those were all really, really good.
Those are some great picks that you had now, too. That's some awesome stuff there for sure, man. Hell yeah. And you kind of gave a spoiler there for it, folks. If you didn't hear what Kendell had to say, folks, we are talking the Alien franchise tonight because Alien Romulus is coming out very, very shortly here, the latest film in the Alien franchise. And look, I've gone back, I've reviewed Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection on this show. Y'all know I got reviews coming out here for at least Prometheus and Covenant here soon, because I got to save the other ones for some other time. But I thought, you know what? Let's get Kendell on the show. Let's talk some Alien films tonight. So we're not just talking the first one. Folks, we're killing this entire franchise tonight now, right? So, Kendell, I got a question for you. We're going to start this off the right way. I want you to tell me, what was the first Alien movie that you saw? And if you can remember, your thoughts about it when you first saw it too.
Ironically, I think the first one I saw, like in completion, beginning to end, I think was Aliens vs. Predator.
Okay.
You know, the first one I saw, because I remember going to the theater with one of my good friends and his dad, and he was talking about how scary the original Aliens was, and he was like, if you didn't see the first one, you need to see the first three. He's like, if you ain't seen them, you need to see them. And I was like, I don't think I've ever saw the whole movie. Like, I've seen pieces of them.
Bits and pieces.
So it was kind of weird that Alien vs. Predator was the first one I saw it through all the way through. And then like a while back, I was like, I need to sit down and watch them all. So I started revisiting them a few years ago. I like them all, to be honest. I like them all for the most part.
Was it something to where, like, when you were younger, like, it just wasn't really something you were that interested in? Like, where you turn into other horror, and it's just, that wasn't really, like, the franchise that you really cared that much about, honestly, until you saw Alien vs. Predator?
Actually, I think it was just one of those things where it was like, I was watching whatever my parents put on.
Got it.
Because I love science fiction. Science fiction is my jam. Like, I love that world. I will fight people to the death who just say science fiction isn't horror, and I'm just like, you're missing the whole point of science fiction. Like the whole genre is horror, regardless if there's a monster or not. So like, it was just those things where I think my parents didn't like probably put those on. So like I said, I was more so seeing things like People Under the Stairs, Leprechaun, Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, all of those, and then like Pumpkinhead, even Candyman, like a bunch of like the classic ones. But I don't remember my parents putting on like Aliens too much. I don't remember putting it on at all. Like, I'm not sure if my dad or my mom liked it much, but I don't recall them. So that was the main reason I didn't see them. But I knew of them, and I would catch pieces of it here and there on cable. But I never saw the whole movie, so I didn't get why people were like so into it. I was like, I need to watch the whole thing, man. And I did it recently.
That's such an interesting perspective as well, too, because folks, for those of y'all that don't know, Alien vs. Predator is the only non-R-rated entry in the entire franchise. Like, if you even count Predator in, that is the only non-rated one. Now, there is an unrated version of Alien vs. Predator that adds it back in, but what I find so interesting about the fact that you're saying that was your first movie is that I don't think Alien vs. Predator is a bad movie, honestly. It gets a lot of flack. Yeah, Paul Anderson did it, and I know Paul Anderson gets a lot of flack from folks, but honestly, I feel that that's not a bad starting point to hit because it only goes up from there in terms of like the violence and blood and scares and shit like that.
Yep, pretty much. I agree 1,000%. I already knew going in like what the alien was. I just didn't like, you know, the lore and history of that world. Like the lore of the alien world is super interesting. I would say in a lot of ways more interesting than a lot of horror franchises. Like it just seems to be like a franchise that's built on the world, on world building, not necessarily a franchise built on the monster. But that's like my point of view on it. Like I feel like there's a lot of horror franchises where you come for the monster. Like I think of like Child's Play, right? You come for Chuck. So if you take Chucky out, it's like, I don't know what the fuck this world is. I don't care. But Alien, that franchise is one where it's like you come for the world building and the monster is just a part of that world building. because the monster in turn, I could talk about it all day, but the monster starts, getting into like the corporate greed that's going on within that world. It gets into like the scientific advancements that like the company are trying to manufacture, despite the loss of life. Like it's a part of the world, but it's not the world. And I found that always really interesting about the Alien franchise.
Bro, you hit like an exact like thing that I was going to talk about here tonight as well. And I'm just going to jump right into that there as well, because I think there are two things that are a constant about the Alien franchise above everything else, and it's that corporate world of greed and putting that advancement ahead of everything else. And the second part is how that affects just families, because those are the two constant things that we're getting throughout like the entire franchise, I feel. The first film, they always say, it's space truckers versus an alien, but like literally these guys are a family, and how the greed of the Weyland-Yutani Corporation to get this like thing that they found goes over the safety of the entire crew. And they have to, they're a crew, they're a family already. They have to find a way to flush this thing out to survive. And that keeps on going throughout the franchise. Like, oh, hey, these colonists who are setting up family on LV-426, they're all dead now. They're all like have been converted to aliens. Let's send in the Marines so we can get more back. Because again, corporate greed over family. And that just keeps on going through. And that's something that's so interesting to me as well, because, they've still managed to keep that fresh throughout every single entry. And that's always the gotcha of every single one, is that we need these aliens to get back to make money off of here, and you're screwed for being in this situation that you're in right now. Like every single one of those is that's each film, honestly. Yes, they're bigger nuances, but still though. And I'm curious with that, do you feel that as you watch the movies go on, because I don't know, like, did you watch them like in the order they were released? Did you end up watching them? Okay.
I watched them all in the order. So I went back, watched the first, watched the second, watched the third. I think ironically, I think I saw Prometheus before I even saw the original three. But and even Covenant, actually. Yeah, I think I saw Covenant as well before I even saw the original three, which is crazy that I ended up seeing the original three like after I saw both of those. But yeah, no, I feel it made sense to me.
That's such an interesting perspective to have, because I feel that conversation, not just about Alien, but a lot of franchises in general that have started to go back and do the prequel, there's always that question of like, do you need to see the original first? And I'm sure there's an appreciation of it, but like when you were going through and watching them, like kind of looking back on it, do you feel that your perspective is still probably better than had you watched like the original three first, and then Resurrection, and then Prometheus, and then Covenant? Like, do you feel that you screwed anything up by watching it in the way that you did?
I don't think so, because I honestly, with a lot of these movies, my opinion has always been get in where you fit in. Like, you got to get hooked, and then try to understand the lore. That's how it's always been. Like, I think about even like Saw, right? Like at this point, we got like 10 movies. Like I started at the beginning, but if someone jumped in at part 5, if you enjoyed even a piece of it, I would say go back and watch. Just go back from the beginning, because then you'll enjoy it even more. So that's kind of, it's funny you say that, because I remember when I went to go see Prometheus, I didn't even consider that I didn't see the original. I was just like, I'm seeing this movie. Oh yeah, I remember why. Because I was like, I'm seeing this movie heavily because I'm interested in the Alien franchise, but also because of the lead actress. I forgot her name. I think it's like Noomi.
Yeah, she's great. She's great.
I love her in anything. After I've seen her in the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo trilogy, the Swedish films, I was like, I'm watching anything this woman is involved in. So when she was involved in Prometheus, I was already interested, but you got me here. I was like, you got me. I'm sold. She's in this. I'm sold. She's in Nothing Bad, so I'm sold. So I was just kind of watching Prometheus. I was like, okay, some aspects I understand from the little bit I know about the franchise, but I'm definitely going to revisit all of this, because this is a really interesting world.
And now, like with all of these here, I mean, obviously through those like first 4, Alien through Resurrection, we're following the journey of Ripley and then Ripley's clone. And so we're keeping that same story in there. And then whether you're saying thankfully or regrettably or not, Prometheus and Covenant obviously are focused on completely different characters that have no relation to any of these ones at all. And I'm curious, because a lot of people do say, like even though there's a lot of love for Resurrection now, but a lot of folks like have said that they really thought that after Alien 3 they should have moved away from Ripley and done something completely different, which eventually got us Prometheus. Where do you kind of stand on that? Like, did you like, because I honestly, I'm a fan of all of them. I think they're all fun. I think they're all great, honestly. But I know there are some folks who got tired of seeing Ripley a little bit played out and would have focused on somebody else. And then there's all those things like the alternate scripts for Alien 3, like the one that focused on Hicks. And then, you know, there was different stuff for Alien Resurrection as well, too. But were you, or have you been one of the people who's just been okay with like Ripley being featured throughout the majority of the series? Or were you definitely itching for something a little bit, something else after watching them all?
I love Ripley, to be honest. I love Ripley. Like, I came for the franchise, to be honest. I didn't come in specifically for Ripley, because once again, one of those franchises where the world is like the important. So I came for the world. So Ripley just was like a part of the world. And honestly, the way they wrote her character from film to film, you get an even better understanding of this world and what they're trying to accomplish, what the company's trying to accomplish, and like what even we're even existing in, like what timeline are we existing in. You get a good idea. So I was always fond of the character. I'm like, she's the OG in terms of Final Girls. So
yeah.
Like and I mean, she's a Final Girl who did stuff. She's not like a Final Girl who just survives. She's a Final Girl who's like, nah, I'm not like. She's not a character who like I'm gonna step up at the end. She stepped up the whole movie, right, and I think that deserves a huge applaud, considering like the history of Final Girls, the Final Girls we've had even past into present day. They don't really make many like Ripley. Ripley is kind of in her own cloth. She's cut from her own cloth. Like the whole movie, she's like, you know, she's doing her job, and the people around her, all the women in that movie, everybody's doing their job. Everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. They don't know they're set up, but like everyone's doing what they're supposed to do. And the whole movie, she spoke up if she felt like something didn't make sense, or if she thought something was stupid, she said so. So, you know, she didn't like find bravery because she was the last person alive. She had it at the beginning. And I think that's really what separates her from a lot of characters. So I never got tired of her, because I was just like, she's doing her thing from movie to movie. Like, she keep pointing out how stupid these people are. But she keeps doing her part to try to be halfway decent. I'm like, she's awesome. When they stepped away from her, I was fine with it. But I was like, all right, cool. Let me see what else is in this world. This world is super interesting. This world is amazing. Like, sometimes I'm not sure if we're in the past, the present, or the future. Like, it's really interesting.
Lord. And it's so weird because, like, the fact that we're kind of spinning it around because, you know, Ridley Scott did the original film, James Cameron brought into number 2, David Fincher did 3, Jean-Pierre. I almost had it. The director of Resurrection, and then we had. I'm not even gonna get it for Prometheus here now, but I say all that to say that like we've wrapped back around to where Ridley Scott, who was the guy who kind of brought everything into fruition here, is kind of back now in the forefront of it because he got to do Covenant, which I love Covenant, honestly, and with the new movie Romulus coming out, you know, Fede Alvarez has already said, you know, 100% he has had talks with Ridley Scott that, like, you know, this was a big part of having him involved in that process for the film. And I'm curious if you're an Alien or an Aliens person, because that's always the lifelong thing, right? It's either Alien or Aliens that you're a fan of now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, damn, that's tough, because I really love both. Both movies are fucking great. I love them both for slightly different reasons. I love the first one a little bit more, partly because I find it interesting how it reflects the corporate world, like how they function together as like a corporate family. Mm-hmm. I found that really interesting, and I love a lot of the think pieces people have wrote about that, about how like the different employees there, how they just work together and figure together is very similar to like corporate America, and mimics it in a perfect way. You know, everything from technically your manager not listening to you and then a problem getting worse to like having one employee who's usually really super efficient, but then they're not usually the one in charge, and just all those different elements. And then, you know, the monkey wrench in the room is the android that was with them, and just kind of how all of those things fit together. I found that like super interesting. The second movie is a lot more, I feel like, Ripley being like, you guys are stupid as fuck. Like we've already established in the first this is a problem. So you guys are just dumb. You know, you're not even like trying to be smart about this. You're just stupid. And I kind of enjoy that too. But the first one is a little. I'm a little bit more fond of the first one, just a little bit though.
No, that's fantastic reasoning, honestly. And You know, it's so interesting because like a lot of people would definitely say that Alien is the definitive horror film of the franchise, while Aliens moved it into like the horror, but it's also something else. Because I'm with you on that. Like science fiction is always going to be part horror, so of course it's sci-fi horror, but a lot of people will obviously say that part two is what moved the franchise more into like mixed territory to where it wasn't just sci-fi horror anymore. And now it's an action and we're expanding into drama. And, you know, because like Prometheus really expanded on that a lot too. So I always love finding out which one folks are going towards. And again, it brings me back to your perspective of seeing Alien versus Predator first, because, you know, a lot of folks had the ability to where they saw the original versions of like all these films like hit VHS, and then we got all the special editions, and in a lot of cases these were really big changes from what were presented on the original way they came out, and they added character moments and added stuff that was super important to the plot as well too. And now it makes me curious, if did you ever get, like, because obviously Alien vs. Predator was your first film, but has basically everything you've seen been like the special editions of the films at this point?
I think so for the most part. I would think so, because some of these I think whether they were on Netflix or somewhere random, or
sure.
Tubi, and I just kind of was like happy that I found it. Sometimes it's hard to find stuff on streaming, right? It's like it's 1,000 platforms. Sometimes things aren't available.
It'll be somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be somewhere. So I forgot where I even found them. So I was just happy to see them. I'm not sure if they were like the ultimate collection with like an extra 15 minutes or not. But yeah, I enjoyed them all though. I enjoyed them all. But I'm guessing I just saw like probably the I don't know, home release version of it. I don't know if they added anything extra to it or not. But great movie.
Okay. Now with that though, I mean, it also, like, because, you know, again, the comparison always seems to be stuck between Alien and Aliens, and like everybody talks about the other ones, but like that's always the battle there. Something that I found super interesting is that everything's also like really paired up with the movies as well too, because Alien and Aliens really do go so well together because of the fact it's that continued story of Ripley escaped and now she's going back to the same place that she was. And while, yeah, Aliens does go into 3 is more paired with Resurrection, because she dies, brought her back as a clone. And then Prometheus and Covenant obviously have that direct connection as well, too. And I find that interesting, because most of the horror franchises that at least have that many entries, because we're sitting at 6 right now, 7 with Romulus coming out, but most horror franchises that have that many entries really aren't paired up like that, to where you have like the movie that complements each other is like the one right before it or right after it, like that. And I find that to be so interesting, honestly. And I am curious, though, out of all those pairings, if there's a preferred one that you have, like that you go to more than the other ones. Like, if you're going to end up catching one on TV or throwing one on streaming there, are you an Aliens person? Are you a 3 Resurrection, Prometheus, Covenant? Where does your loyalty really lie at there now?
Oh, boy, that is tough. Because I really enjoy all of them for different reasons.
Yeah.
It's tough. I feel like it depends, right? If I'm doing it for me, if it's for me and I'm not like trying to show someone this franchise for the first time or something, I'd probably do 1 and 2.
Okay.
Just because 1 and 2 just feel like the perfect, like, popcorn, sit down, enjoy yourself, like this is about to be a blast, and it never gets old. Yeah. If I'm like, yeah, that probably would be if it's just like for me. If it's something like, I mean, I guess curiosity or just something that I like to visit about. I think about the movie Prometheus very often, because I feel like that movie had so much more movie, and we just didn't get it for some reason.
Yeah. Oh man, give me another 30 minutes, and it's long as hell already. But give me 30 more though.
It's something about the movie that, aside from the lead actress, that she's great in everything, and I love her in everything. And then Michael Fassbender was in there as well, he's great in everything too, and that's before I even knew he was a household name. And a few other people in there were actually awesome. Something about that movie, it lived with me. Like, I think about it from time to time, and I'm just like, I feel like there was even better movie in here. I enjoyed what we got, but I feel like there was so much more happening here. Like, I know it's kind of a prequel, but it also kind of feels like it's not just a prequel. It feels like it's also current time, which is interesting because I kind of wonder truly how it fits with like Aliens 1 and 2. But it seems like it's before 1 and 2, but also possibly after. So like timeline wise, it's really interesting. What's happening in the movie is super interesting. The whole thing with the engineers, the idea is that they kind of, it's not that they created the alien, but more so they were their own civilization. It reminded me a lot of the game Mass Effect, which I love, where it's almost like they were like if you ever played Mass Effect, they were like the Prometheans, and then it's like the came and took them. That's kind of like the angle it seems that Prometheus is going, where like the engineers seem to be taken over by the aliens, that like they were the Prometheans, and so it's like, it's super interesting there, and like the things you learn about that world is super, super interesting. So I think about that movie quite often, like, damn, I feel like this movie's even better than what we got, but we just, for some reason, didn't get it. And I feel like it makes it slightly worse, even though I like Covenant. I feel like Prometheus being slightly unfinished makes Covenant slightly a bad movie, but not a bad movie, just like not as great as it should be, because it's missing something. I don't know what.
That's a fantastic thought process, because I've never actually considered that before, because I do think you're absolutely right about that. Like Prometheus did something daring, which was, like you said, it wasn't focused on the Xenomorph at all, and that's been such the focus of like these films, honestly. And we talk about the corporate structure and these family units across like the mainline series before those two, but Prometheus really tried to do something different and not necessarily explain the birth of the alien, even though they ended up having to add that in. But yeah, I love the fact of the Forerunners and what they were doing and how they ended up screwing over like their own civilization and everything. And I absolutely would have wanted to see more of that. Now, for me, it didn't wreck Covenant. The ending, I have qualms with the ending of Prometheus into Covenant, but overall didn't take away from it. But that actually leads me to another question I have for you. What's gonna come back around to the ending of Prometheus. Is there a moment from any of these 6 films that I think stands out to you more than anything else? Because there's a lot of shocking moments. Kane getting the chest buster in the first film, or the Queen in part 2, or Ripley killing herself in part 3. Like, there's so many iconic moments. But is there anything from any of the series that you would pick out that's like, that's Alien to me? That is like the most fucked up thing that's happened here. I still can't believe it. Gets me every time I see it. Anything that you could pick out from the series?
Honestly, and it's tough one. It's hard. I'm just going with the question that popped in my mind. It was 2 things that popped to my mind immediately, and they're both from Alien versus Predator. It was one, of course, Annihilate being like honored by the Predator. That's the shit. Like, that was awesome. Yeah. That was like so cool. It was like, oh shit, like they actually acknowledge like our warriors too, technically. Like, that's dope. Like that, and then just the idea that movie even exists, it sounds like a fantasy. Like, that's like, obviously fans can like come up with theories for stuff all the time on like, oh, this thing should fight this thing. That's probably how we got Freddy Jason. But for them to actually like do that and be like, no, these are both like technically aliens, but they both are very different. So it makes sense for us to put a movie where they're together, and then it all makes sense in connection to humanity, where it's like the Predators essentially taught humans how to make pyramids, and then they also use it as a training ground. And that was like super interesting. Like, I don't know who was a part of that writing process. That's a great idea. Fantastic idea. So like that in of itself was like super shocking. But I guess the other thing, because I just really enjoyed Alien vs. Predator, I really like when the first Predator shows up and just dismantles like 8 aliens by himself.
Everything. God, man.
I think he threw like that fucking Xenoblade or something and just like killed like 12 of them. And all the humans are like, oh, okay. And I'm just like, yeah, this is what I came for. This right?
Were you so when you saw it in theaters, were you alien, predator, or human? Which side were you going?
I was predator. I was predator the whole way. Because in these type of movies, humans are always stupid. So I wasn't even worried about humans. I was predator all the way. I was like, I want to see a predator wreck aliens because they are tactical geniuses, and I want to see what a tactical genius does with like an animal that's kind of made to adapt to any situation. Like, how does that work? And then the fact that they decide to use it for training because it can adapt to anything. So it can adapt to being in the dark all the time. It can adapt to being in a confined situation. It can adapt to this labyrinth that is the pyramid that technically puts the predator at a disadvantage despite them building it. I found that like super interesting. So I was like in there for the Predators. I was like, let's go. I was like, I hope Danny Glover pop up for like Let's get everybody. No Arnold in here. Let's get everybody.
Hey, I'm a Predator 2 guy, so that gets me right there. Now I'm with that.
Carl Weathers, get all of them in there. Let's get everybody in there. I was hoping for everybody in that movie.
Yeah. Oh man. And folks, again, I want to re-emphasize here. Like, if you feel that the mainline Alien series is like a downer, because it kind of is, like, literally, with the exception of the end of Resurrection and maybe the end of the original Alien, this franchise is a downer as hell. Sure. Alien vs. Predator is so upbeat, I feel. Like, that is such an upbeat film in the best of ways, to where it's like, you can actually go and have fun with it and maybe not feel as bad. And I know, Requiem right after it undoes much of that, but I feel that it's such an upbeat film compared to those other ones. So that's awesome. I love that there's somebody who genuinely loves moments from there compared to like a lot of the other films. Not saying they're bad, but I find that so rare when it comes to this franchise, for sure. That's nice. Yeah, I like it.
It's so different. It's more of an action movie, of course, but it's so cool. I feel like with that, you're coming for the action and like the funness of the character. Honestly, that story had more depth than I expected for that movie, to be honest with you. Yeah. I think those type of action movies don't have a lot of depth. It's usually like, all right, here's a monster, the human has to kill it. Simple as that. But like that movie paints the Predator and the aliens in a really interesting light, where it's like, okay, we know the aliens are adaptable, and we know that the Predators hunt, but we also don't know how they kind of not only breed other predators, but how do they train these predators to be so adept that they could just drop on a planet and just take everybody out. And like that had far more depth than I expected from it. So it kind of made Predator better in my eyes, and it made the Alien franchise better. Now the Alien franchise, I don't come for the horror. I mean, I don't come for the action. I come for the world building. Like I was saying before, the world is super interesting. Like, it's almost like they forget they have a monster at times, because the world is so damn intricate and so much of like, man, I'm not even sure what's happening outside of these monsters, because there's so many other things with these companies that seem to just keep sending ships out to different parts of the galaxy. We don't understand. We don't really know why. We don't have the greatest understanding of like the planet that these ships are even coming from. But it keeps like kind of breadcrumbing you enough that you're like, I need to see the next installation, because I know there's going to be a piece that connects to the others, and that's great writing. That's not like a great monster, even though the Xenomorph is awesome.
No, I love that. I love that. See, and I always go back to the one that, like, over everything just stands out in my mind there, and circling back to the end of Prometheus, was how upset in theaters I was when Covenant showed what happened to Shaw from Prometheus. Because I remember, like, okay, by the time the end of Prometheus comes around and David is just the head and Shaw and him get the ship going and they blast off, I think a lot of people would probably assume that they're in a very much symbiotic relationship at that point. Like, they need each other to survive there. They're not going to get out of it. And then just the absolute horror that David couldn't stop himself, that he was so curious about creating and making life for himself, that the person that ended up saving his life and ensuring his survival, and he saved her life, he still screwed her over and gave her the worst death, the worst thing imaginable to happen to her. Like, that shook me to my absolute core, and it still does, thinking of this entire franchise, honestly.
Yeah, that's, I love that actress so much.
Yeah.
Dude, come on. And I felt a little bit like a cop-out, but once again, I felt like if Prometheus had more movie, we would have had an understanding as to how we get here. Because I know, in my mind, when I saw Covenant, and I enjoyed that movie was cool. Some of the best CGI work I think I've seen, like, in the franchise, honestly.
Sure.
But with David doing what he did, I was kind of like, in the movie, I wasn't that shocked. I was more so mad that it happened on screen. But I wasn't like shocked that he did it, because he's an android, and they kind of, in my opinion, they made it kind of clear throughout the franchise that androids just never have good intentions. Like, not even because they're evil, but just because, like you said, their curiosity is so high that they will end up doing shit even though they don't want to harm you. Yeah, they'll just be like, oh, I came up with this idea. This seems like the most efficient idea. Let me do this. And you're almost not sure if they're being influenced by the company in some way, or if the AI is just evolving to having curiosity.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That is great. Okay, so we're gonna wrap this up here. We know that Romulus is coming out. So far, all we know is that it's set between the first and the second film, and we're pretty much like supposed to go into this like kind of blind, because I don't know if we're supposed to directly be able to think about what's coming in Aliens versus what's coming in Alien. I'm sure there might be a throwaway bit here or there that's in there, but I'm curious, what do you personally want from Alien Romulus? What would you like to come out of that movie?
Oh man, that's tough because I didn't even know it was going to be set between 1 and 2. That's great. That's really cool. That's really cool. But I kind of want to know more about the company. I want to know more about the planet that this company is running, and like what are their actual goals? Because clearly we don't know. Like it just seems like from all of the scavengers we've seen throughout the movies, they're just looking for stuff, and we kind of know what they're looking for, but obviously what they're looking for is never what the company is actually after. So I would just kind of want to. I don't think I need like a council of some sort to be like, we're the bad guys, but I just think more of an understanding of like the planet they're coming from would be kind of interesting, or maybe that's a part of the fun. I'm not sure, but that would be kind of cool if we just got even a better idea of like what the hell the company is even trying to accomplish and like their quote unquote advancements of humanity. I think that would be really cool because I think that's like been a through line throughout, whether it's the company itself or the android like David who's trying to like do it on his own. I think that would be I don't know. I just think that's a compelling point. I feel like that's a part of the world that's really interesting. It's like, what the hell they're trying to accomplish.
I love that. I really do. Yeah, that is a fantastic point. And I mean, I do think that's obviously where there's still a lot more story to go from, because I think at this point, we know that we'll always get like a really good protagonist in these films, honestly. We haven't had a bad one yet, in my opinion. We'll get the trademark violence and blood and chest bursters and stuff like that. So when it comes to the story, that's really, really got to be important. And honestly, I think what I am kind of looking for this time around, especially if it's going to be set between Alien and Aliens, is it's a lot with the synthetics, because at this point we're really like riding the line of it's like 50-50, because between David and Prometheus and Covenant, and then Ash in the original film being like the bad synthetics, and then we have like Bishop and Call in Aliens and in Resurrection that are the good synthetics. I think I'm just looking for more of an advancement, because I do remember in Aliens that, when like Ripley finds out that Bishop's an android, she freaks out, and Bishop's like, oh, well, that was a problem because like he's this super older model and everything. So it's like, okay, can I see the evolution of these models here in this film? Because I'd like to focus on that, because Ash, the moment that like Ash was like working for the company at that point, everything flipped like that. And it conflicts with David, because David was still so practical throughout like Prometheus. Like even when he started being evil, he was still being very practical to like help everything else out and kind of control that experiment. And so I'm very curious to see with the synthetic this time, like where they're going to progress that, and if we're going to see again a synthetic that's like, oh, I work for the company, let me, get a face hugger on you, I'm going to screw you over, or if it's going to be something else. Honestly, that is what I'm really looking forward to in this one for sure.
That's a good point, and honestly, I wonder if there's a reason for them to be there.
Yeah,
is it just to carry out the corporate's goodwill, or is it to learn because they're trying to replace people?
Yeah,
like that's a point. Like we already having that conversation in real life about AI taking people's jobs and all of that. Is that I feel like that's a small part of what Alien was talking about as well. With like a lot of times the way AI is programmed, it can't think on its own. It usually just kind of like does its commands. These AIs tend to like come up with solutions on their own, but their solutions seem to be based in either like what they were programmed or what they learned. Like David seemed he learned it would make sense to make the decisions that he's making for advancement. Ash seemed like he was programmed directly by the company to be one way or the other. So it's like I almost only want to call them evil because they're robots. Yeah. But it seems like their purposes were just different. But they feel the same because it's not something we agree with. Like if you remove emotions from a situation, you're dealing with like a blank slate, and it's like, what will a blank slate do? They'll do anything. If you remove emotions, and robots can do that. But David seems very human, but just willing to go further than a human probably would. So it would be interesting to see what they do with the synthetic this time, because it is a part of the story, a big part of the story, honestly.
Hell yes. Well, folks, you don't have that long to wait. Alien Romulus, Alien Romulus hits theaters here very soon, and we got to hear what you think about it in the comment section. So, Kendell, it has been a joy to have you on the show today, and I want to end off the same way and with every guest here. I want you to think back to all your theatrical experiences that you've had in your life, and I want you to think of any opening nights that you went to. And it doesn't even have to be horror. Horror obviously is like what we love, but it doesn't have to be. But if you had to name one opening night that you went to in your life, if you had a chance to go back and re-experience that, what would it be?
Honestly, one of my favorites, and I still joke about it. I've joked about it on the podcast a billion times. Was when I saw the Paranormal Activity 3 with my lady.
Okay.
Funniest shit ever, because people who haven't seen it. I don't know if you remember. The spirit's name was Toby.
Yeah.
In the theater, me and my lady started dying because we was like, "Oh, it's Kunta Kinte." He was like, "You named Toby. That's Kunta. That's why he attacking y'all. Yeah, that named him Toby. Like,
call him his real name. Damn it."
Like, that's what. We was in the back. Everybody else in the theater was terrified, but we was in the back laughing. Like, I'm sorry, man. I'm going to be disruptive, but like, there's no way someone black wrote this. Because they would have caught that immediately.
Yeah, I can't.
That is still probably my favorite Paranormal Activity, but that shit is forever funny to me.
I love it. I love it. Oh, that's gold. That's gold right there. I'm done.
I'm happy you caught it immediately. I'm like, anybody black? No.
I knew it. The moment you said Toby, I was like, I know where he's going. I know it. 100%. We in it. We in it now. Hell yeah. All right, Kendell. Well, it has been a joy to have you on the show. Do you got anything for TerrorNova to plug there? What do you guys have coming up?
Oh yeah, man. We what is it? We're gonna be doing a movie, Incantation, soon, a Netflix movie.
Yeah,
so, interesting. I really enjoyed that. So that's gonna be interesting. Jackie hasn't seen it, so whenever I recommend a movie, she's like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" That's like half my damn gimmick. She's like, "You recommend the craziest stuff." I'm like, "I don't watch trailers. I just watch stuff and they get surprised."
That's it. Yep.
That
ending. Woo, that ending of that one left me shook when the reveal happens. It's like, oh, yes. That's mean. That's mean right there. Now bringing that shit into my house, like no.
Yeah. That movie was a trip. So I really enjoyed that. But that's one of the movies we have coming up soon this month, and probably a few other things. I don't know what else off the top of my head. I know Halloween's right around the corner, so everybody's trying to do stuff for that. But I think the last movie we did recently was Green Room. So I love Green Room, so we did that recently.
Such good. Rest in peace, Anton. All day.
Yeah, for real.
The man.
He was really good. So we always bounce around. So we bounce between time periods and everything. So a little bit of everything and worse.
Hell yeah. Y'all, go and check out TerrorNova. It's available anywhere you can find your podcast. It is a fantastic show. I got Kendell B with me here today on T and Friends Watch a Scary Movie. Folks, that's going to do it for us. Tell me in the comment section here for a chance to win the Alien children's book. That's right. Y'all saw that. I've been showing that off there. If you want a chance to win a copy of the Alien children's book, just tell me in the comment section here on YouTube what your favorite Alien movie is, and you'll be entered into the drawing, folks. But that's going to do it for us tonight. My name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.
Boy here is a big fan of
Hell yeah, dude.
Fangoria. So, if you want to check out the world's best horror magazine that's out there, get a chance to get yourself your own subscription, which I just got my first one back in 2022 and I don't regret it for a second. But if you want your own Fangoria subscription, or you like the Fangoria merchandise, then head over to the Fangoria shop and use my link if you want to save yourself some money, folks. That's an easy one to remember. Just go to shop.fangoria.com/AXDEW. Again, that's shop.fangoria.com/AXDEW, or use my specific code AXDEW at checkout. You can save 20% off your entire order, and that implies 2 subscription and one-time orders as well. You don't want to miss out, folks, because with the magnitude of horror movies we've had released in the last few years, and with what we have on the horizon, Fangoria is going to be your #1 source for all that great, juicy, bloody information in the world of horror. So again, head to shop.fangoria.com. Hey there, folks! Thanks for tuning in to T-Watch This Scary Movie. I appreciate you checking out another review or movie news, whether we're talking movies, TV shows, books, or games, whatever, it's all scary. Remember, you can check out new episodes every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on the YouTube page for video. That's youtube.com/c/TherrenReynolds-Scary-Movie. Again, youtube.com/c/TherrenReynolds-Scary-Movie. And you can check out the audio version on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Just search T Watch the Scary Movie or TWASM. Don't forget, my name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.